I see a lot of artists in, you know, what we call high end, let's call it high end digital art. And I know you know this space very well because you are the founder of Foundation, and
Yep.
you have so many, generative artists, AI artists there. And they see Rodeo, and I think they are looking, some of them, not all, because there are many artists already on Rodeo.
Correct.
They are missing the point that Rodeo is not necessarily for art only. It's not necessarily for, you know, this sort of high end art. Rodeo can be used for many things, right? I just minted
Correct.
a quote. You can mint, I don't know, an article. So it could potentially be for anything, like Instagram is, right? Like TikTok is. So, what would you tell artists? These artists that have a career, they have, some of them very successful careers over the past 3 years, and are reluctant to mentor Rodeo. And yeah, what are your thoughts then, or high end art, what you see on Foundation, with what you see on Rodeo, which is more accessible creations? How do you difference both?
So yeah, Kyle, I think that's spot on, which is Rodeo is a social network. So you want to put out content and post things that people in your network, in your audience, in your community are interested in. And the new behavior is that you're compensated for that. It's not just doing it for free. All these artists are already doing this. They're posting to these networks all the time their content for free,
Mhm.
right? So on Rodeo, you have an upgrade. It is not a marketplace. So I do not ask that people put their work up and try to sell it on Rodeo. It's a place, I think, and the way I framed it is it's a place to resonate. So sharing process, sharing whips, sharing behind the scenes, sharing things that you weren't going to sell, sharing artifacts that maybe got cut along the way, things that tell the story and the journey, right? I think it is something where we've just decided that minting can only be one thing. And I think that's a very limited view of the world,
Mm.
right? And you're already using social networks that don't have these Web3 properties. Why aren't you building in an on-chain context? Why aren't you really talking to people, right, in a social context that are truly bought into digital ownership, decentralization,
Mm.
permissionlessness, right? These things that we all value, that we're in the space for, we can now build social networks that have these properties. And yes, it is not an art marketplace, right? But minting does not need to mean one thing. And so, if you look at Foundation, you look at Rodeo, and I think why I can be a very credible spokesman for this sort of narrative is I've built a product where it is designed to sell your work,
Mhm.
right? That is what Foundation is designed to do. If you were to come into the design process for Rodeo, we asked ourselves, what if you did the opposite?
Mm.
Everything that you look at Rodeo is the opposite of Foundation. It is a different token standard, it is a different mechanic, it's a different design, it's a different user experience, right? It's just built fundamentally differently. And so I think, people might just need time
Mm.
to process this and to understand it. But you can see a lot of people have very quickly adopted it because they understand the potential,
Yeah.
right? Posting on Web 2, if you post something on Instagram and you are trying to really embrace NFTs and digital ownership and Web 3, posting on Instagram is pointless.
Yeah.
Nobody there cares,
Yeah.
right? How many collectors are going to convert into your work on Instagram? I don't think any,
Mhm.
right? Whereas now on Rodeo, you can really post and build up an audience. You can build up fans. They can compensate you for your process and your journey. And then when you go to actually build something that you want to sell at a higher price point, we have products like Foundation that are designed to do that.
Mm.
And so I think of these as complementary. I think of them as symbiotic. And not only that, Carlo, I think they're necessary. I think Web2 social networks are trying to crush Web3. I don't think they want you to have all of these
Yeah.
experiences and power, right? It goes against their design, right? They're walled gardens. They don't want you to leave. And
Yeah.
so, I think people need to look at the bigger picture, and zoom out and realize they're already contributing to these networks with their content and with their work, and they're not being compensated, and they're not really tapping into on-chain audiences that are going to ultimately power their careers,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And Carl, I'd love to hear from you on this front. But like, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of time before people kind of understand it. But you can see, and you're on there. It's like it's really fun. I mean, there's a lot of artists who I've admired, who I've followed on Foundation, And I'm instantly getting access to them on Rodeo in totally new ways that feels interesting, fresh, exciting. I'm even more engrossed in their work. I'm even more engrossed in their story. And that's really good for the artist because that's what they need to really ultimately build a market in the long run.
Yeah.
And then I think one other point I'll add, Carlo, is I don't want to over rotate on artists as well. I don't think Rodeo is designed, and you'll see this as the product evolves. It's not just for art. I don't think that we start with art because that's our forte, right? And that's our community, and that's who we know how to, that's who we can really talk to and bring into this world. But you've talked about you posting. I
Yeah.
post, right?
Yeah.
I was never selling art on Foundation. That
Mhm.
wasn't something I don't consider myself a full-time artist, so I don't think it would be. I don't know why I would use that product, but
Mm.
I have fun posts, right? And I love posting on Rodeo. Like I was at Fest, and there's a cool, there was this exhibit and
Yeah.
an installation, and it kind of output this cool artifact. And I was like, I want to put this on chain, right?
Yeah.
I want other people to be able to see this, and I want to use this. I want to engage with my friends,
Yes.
and that's what I did, and that's who minted it, right?
Hmm.
People that I know, and so I think there's really new dynamics to explore here, and so I hear the apprehension. I don't think it doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's just a matter of time until people kind of understand these new
Yeah.
behaviors and new powers. And I think they'll embrace them